and welcome to this special anniversary program celebrating 35 years of GHS-TV. I'm Scarlett Simpson, a senior at GHS-TV.
And I'm Rodney McKinner, a junior at GHS-TV. Since 1982, this nationally acclaimed TV studio has been reaching audiences, not only in the Mid-South, but across the world. From Germany to Moscow, and from New York to Tokyo, GHS-TV has made itself known around every corner of the globe.
During this special anniversary program, current GHS-TV students will dive deep into the history of the studio and talk with alumni around the world who continue to succeed in various areas of the entertainment and news industries.
Our alumni have taken on Broadway, late-night comedy with Saturday Night Live, and some are the minds behind social media industries like BuzzFeed. These leaders, achievers, and innovators continue to win awards for their work that trace back to where we're standing.
Of course, we couldn't celebrate these 35 years without mentioning the man who started it all, Frank Bluestein. I sat down with Mr. Bluestein to talk about the studio and his legacy. But before we get to that interview, here's a brief look at how GHS-TV got to where it is today.
You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV. Germantown.
What started out as an idea for Germantown Cablevision in 1981 has now grown into a nationally recognized television studio. Frank Bluestein, the visionary behind GHS-TV, built it as a way to provide students a real-world television lab. The TV studio was a totally unique concept when it opened in 1982. It was one of only a few cable high school television facilities in the country. GHS-TV provides local programs for the community, from daily shows like Up Germantown to monthly shows such as Crosstalk and annual shows like live coverage of the Germantown Festival and Election Night. In 1993, the GHS-TV studios were renovated and expanded to provide more space to tape original content. It reopened with a dramatic ribbon-cutting ceremony attended by alumni from across the country. The next renovation came 20 years later in 2013. Over the years, GHS-TV and its students have won more than 200 awards, including Student Emmys, and has been named the best educational access station in the country 14 times by the Alliance for Community Media. Frank Bluestein's dedication to GHS-TV was recognized in 1996 when he was named the Disney and McDonald's Performing Arts Teacher of the Year.
Welcome to the show, Mr. Bluestein. We are so excited to have you become a part of the 35th anniversary show, and it is an honor to interview you.
Oh, well, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, we mentioned the beginnings of GHS-TV in the package previous to this one, but I wanted to ask you in your own words how the idea to start GHS-TV came about.
Well, I can't say it was my own idea, really. It was an idea that was given to me, I guess, because at the time that we started the studio, there was no such thing as cable TV in Germantown. I'm sure you can't imagine that. But there were many companies that wanted to have or own the cable franchise in Germantown. And several of them actually had proposals that incorporated elements of the school in their proposal, and one had this idea of building a studio in the school. So it was actually the proposal that was closest to me. For one thing, I liked the idea, and second of all, a lot of my friends were part owners of that company, and I thought, wow, this would be great. And of course, they actually did that. They decided to do the studio as a way to really incorporate the studio into the community and into the cable network. So I got behind them, and after a rather lengthy battle, so to speak, that was the company that was adopted, and we started GHS-TV with 2 cameras and actually in this area that we're sitting in right now, that's where it started.
Well, your philosophy behind the program was to give students an opportunity to work in a professional environment. Can you touch on that?
Sure. Pretty much my entire career was based on the fact that you do best, your learning is done best by doing. So in my way of thinking, the only way that I could get that doing part for the students was to give them something to do, and that was to really create this studio. I mean, for the TV kids that were in the studio. And I just spent my entire career really trying to give them all of these tools, this wonderful studio and equipment, and programming ideas and all of those kinds of things so that they could have a realistic experience. And that was the teaching. That became the teaching. It wasn't, I never had the vision that you should stand in a classroom and have a chalkboard, or now I guess a whiteboard, and do this, that, or whatever. So that was my vision, and I just worked very diligently, really for my career, in trying to make this come about with this, what's now a beautiful studio with all kind of equipment and all kind of programming that goes on. So that was it. I did the same thing also in the theater, trying to set up a realistic situation with a costume shop, a scene shop, a box office, all of those things, so that students had the ability to work in a real life environment. That was very important to me.
Well, your presence is still felt at GHS-TV every day. Looking back at everything that you have done, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, I mean, thank you for saying legacy. My own, I guess for me, the thing that's the most important are the students that came through the program. I mean, I want them to have happy and fulfilled lives, and I would like to know that something that we did here, and it wasn't just me, it was many people, there were many, many people that worked with me, but that we did those things and they had enough of an impact on students that when they went out into their own life and career and family, that they could take away some of this, and it would not just mean something, but it would be tangible for them, and it would impact their entire life. That's the most meaningful thing for me, and I'm not one to, I think that's the most important thing, and that's, I guess, if you want to call that a legacy, that's what it would be for me.
Well, you were Disney and McDonald's National Performing Arts Teacher of the Year in 1996. And it was so cool because your students got to become a part of the awards show with you. Can you talk about that experience with you and your students?
Oh, it was great. I really asked them if the students could be part of what we did. I knew that the program, at that time it aired on ABC, and I had seen the program and I saw where students were involved in with some of the teachers, primarily the performing arts. So I asked them, and they thought it was really unique because I thought I was being selected because of the theater background, but it turned out what they really found the coolest for them was the television. So they said, what about bringing television students with you, and we'll let them cover this while you're being put through the paces and whatever. They can cover the whole event. I thought, wow, that was great. So we took a whole contingent of students out to LA with us, and it was to this day for me one of course it was a special experience to be there for me, but what really made it the most special was having the students there, and there were some other teachers that came with me. It was fantastic.
Well, retirement has not slowed you down. You are still very active in education as well as theater arts. I was wondering if you could tell us what you have been doing in the community recently.
I run a program called the Tennessee Arts Academy. It's in Nashville. So I travel between Memphis and Nashville a lot. I'm the executive director of the Arts Academy. We train teachers. These are seasoned teachers, some teachers new teachers, some teachers have taught for 35 and 40 years. They come to the academy in the summer and we give them professional development classes to help make them better teachers in music, theater, visual art, and a section called Arts Leadership. So that takes up, even though it's only in the summer, I spend all year working on that because we bring in artists, we bring in a world-class faculty, we bring in speakers of national recognitions. It's a really time-consuming but a very rewarding program. And then the other thing I do here locally in Memphis is that I am also the executive director for Tennessee Shakespeare Company. And we just bought a new building and we're very excited about it. The old Ballet Memphis building out in actually right outside of Germantown. And we're hoping to renovate very shortly and have just a spectacular theater space. So those are the two things that occupy me the most. I'm still a bit involved with the Educational Theater Association, which is a statewide organization, and I help them every year with their conference. So I do all of that, and then do a little consulting work on the side for theater, and work for a company in New York called Theatrical Rights Worldwide.
Well, Mr. Bluestein, I want to thank you for having the time to talk with me, and I want to thank you for everything that you've done for GHS-TV. I know I speak for the rest of the students when I say that this production program has changed our lives.
Well, thank you very much. It changed mine too, and I'm so glad to see you and all the other folks here in the studio doing what you're doing, because when you talk about legacy, that really is the legacy, that this continues and that other students can be influenced in such a positive way. Thank you.
One of the first students to work alongside Mr. Bluestein at GHS-TV was Jim Barrett, class of 1983. Since he graduated, he's had a very successful career out in Los Angeles. He joins us now via Skype. Welcome to the show, Mr. Barrett, and thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, I mentioned that you've been doing pretty well out in LA. Catch us up on some of your latest projects.
Well, I work a lot with NBC Universal right now. It's a department that's called Creative Partnerships, and they do a lot of cross-branded entertainment for The Voice, for America's Got Talent, a lot of the reality shows, some of the dramas as well.
Well, you were our very first general manager here at GHS-TV. What does it mean to you to have this distinction?
It's great. It's funny because in 1982-83, it was the first, incarnation of the television station, and it was really a brainchild of Frank Bluestein. I had him for starting my sophomore year. I took an intro to mass communication class with him. And then junior year, there started to be talk of a TV studio for the students. And so I actually felt bad for the students a year ahead of me because they missed it by 1 year. But it was fantastic. And I felt very honored that he entrusted me with that title. Martin Cutler was the executive producer of the first News and Views. I was the general manager of the station, did some technical directing, really built a passion, too, for editing and shooting back then.
Well, how did the television studio influence who you are today?
It was a combination of things. I mean, Frank Bluestein was such a kind of learn by doing teacher, which was fantastic. There was a curriculum as well, but he really was passionate in both the theater and the TV departments about learning by doing. And so that first year, we really hit the ground running. Doing News and Views. We did, I believe, 2 shows a week, 2 half-hour shows a week. We did live Germantown High School football, live basketball. We did the first live Germantown Festival as well. So in that very first year, we got a lot accomplished. We were really learning too. I mean, you'll definitely see some mistakes on cable a lot, on air from back in those days, of course. But it was just a fantastic experience and gave me a leg up, too, because on the heels of that, when I started college, initially at Memphis State, I was going to have to wait till I was an upperclassman to do what I was already doing at Germantown. So that experience at GHS-TV enabled me to get a production job at WMC TV5 there when I was just 20 years old.
Well, obviously the studio has undergone major changes since you were here. Can you describe the experience of being a student here?
Equipment-wise, I mean, that first year, initially it was split up. We had 2 cameras, 1 editing system, 1 effects switcher, and then we had a duplicate for all of that at what they call the head end, or the main Cablevision office in those days. And very quickly, it became clear that we needed all of that equipment, because when it was at the head end, it really wasn't being utilized. So suddenly we doubled all of our equipment. So we had a switcher in the studio and 1 in a remote U-Haul that we used for the football games and such. And we had 2 editing systems, 4 cameras. So very quickly, we went from being a very small-time operation to having a full in-studio and remote unit, which at the time, now a lot of high schools have pretty snazzy television stations. But at the time, GHS-TV was clearly the leader in the Memphis area, in the Mid-South, for education.
Well, how did you become a part of the program?
Well, again, starting in Frank Bluestein's classes when I was a sophomore and a junior, we did some actual filmmaking, shooting Super 8. We shot some stuff on VHS. He was able to see my passion for it. And I was actually making a little sci-fi short on the side with my parents' video equipment. Believe it or not, we had home video in 1979 and 80. So he was able to see my passion for it and that of several other people, including Chris Parnell, who was there as well that first year. He was a sophomore. John Koski, again, Martin Cutler, Charlotte Jolly, Susan Adams, Jenny Era. There were a number of Dan McCleary, a lot of people who were there, but it was a pretty small kind of cadre of people who were passionate about it. And then a group on the outer perimeter who were very helpful to the operation as well in that first year.
Well, Mr. Barrett, talk to us about being one of the first students to work alongside Mr. Bluestein.
You know, it was an exciting time, a lot of emotion as well, because we were just trying to figure it out that first year. And I'm not going to say we didn't know what we were doing. We had a sense of it. We were the MTV generation. When I was just a sophomore is when MTV launched. So we were very influenced by the beginnings of MTV, and for that matter, all of Cablevision. Watching CNN come to life, so we were very influenced by that and by what Frank Bluestein wanted to accomplish. He was very ambitious about that first year, making sure, that initially the concept was to do a live news show every day, and that was something that just wasn't feasible for several reasons, not just because of our technological limitations, but just other politics and other things that just figure into students working at a school. But considering all of the things we were able to accomplish, I mean, I was just blown away. And he again, the learn by doing, and he also has this unique ability, and I think the best teachers in our lives have this, is to be able to, A, sort of pull us out of our shell, and B, push us to our full potential. That there's certainly a wonderful thing with teachers who nurture us and make us feel good, but there's also something beyond that, I think, when a teacher can push you to do your absolute best, and he was definitely a great example of that.
Well, Mr. Barrett, that is all the time we have today. Thank you so much for Skyping in.
Thank you very much.
Now let's send things over to Alan Toney for a look at one of GHS-TV's longest-running shows.
Thank you, Scarlett. I'm Alan Toney, a senior here at GHS-TV. The live coverage of the Germantown Festival is GHS-TV's longest-running live show. It's also the first major project of the school year. Students are challenged to put together a 3-hour live show in less than a month. Last September, I had the honor of co-hosting the show with Scarlett Simpson. It was such a rush. Let's take a look at the history of the live coverage of the Germantown Festival. What first started out as an idea for a report has turned into GHS-TV's longest-running and most popular television broadcast. For more than 30 years now, GHS-TV has provided viewers the opportunity to enjoy the sights and sounds of the festival without ever having to leave their home. Every year, as members of the Germantown community gather at the Germantown Civic Club complex to enjoy this 2-day event, GHS-TV students take to the grounds to set up for the 3-hour production that airs on Sunday. The show takes a month of planning, providing experience in live television, remote production, event planning, and teamwork. The student-produced show features 2 hosts who interview guests from organizations all over the Mid-South and includes performances from local musicians. A very young Justin Timberlake even graced the festival performance stage. Finally, our student reporters span across the festival grounds, capturing everything this annual tradition offers. That was a look at the Germantown Festival. Now let's meet some of the alumni who have worked on the show over the years. First up, joining us from Dallas, Texas, is David Hershey, VP of Creative Services for CBS Dallas-Fort Worth. Well, welcome, Mr. Hershey.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, you were a student during the first few years of our live coverage of the Germantown Festival. What were your positions and what was it like?
I got on as a kind of one of the low-level positions. I think that like everybody, I was helping set up some of the things at the festival. But my junior year, they actually gave me a feature package to shoot. And I got to shoot it with Nicole Silverstein, who had never done a report before. She was a senior, but she had never done a report before. So we were both kind of learning the process at the same time. I knew how to run the camera, but I didn't know a lot about writing and actually producing a piece. And she knew even less than I did. So I never forget, it took us a few hours to shoot the piece. And I think by about 4 o'clock that morning, I finally had it done. And it was nothing special, but the sense of accomplishment of getting my first festival package done was really good. So, and from there it kind of came easier. The next year, I think my senior year, I got assigned 3 packages because they knew I could just kind of bang them out and get them done. So, but that whole process is a really good learning experience, and it really kind of helped me to do some of the other things that I went on to do there at GHS-TV.
Well, while you were a student, what all did you do here at GHS-TV?
Well, I started my sophomore year in Mr. Bluestein's basic film and video class, and I kind of got the bug then, and he encouraged me to join the 4th period class for the next year, so I did. My big inspiration, he told me when I first started out is well, we did football. He said the general manager of the studio, who at the time was Danny McClary, he told me that Danny McClary started out his career at GHS-TV by pulling cable at football games. So I thought, hey, I can do that. Anybody can do that. So I started doing that, and I actually started being the spotter for the talent there, which I think was Mike McCormick and Keith Glazier. So I basically was the one who was holding up the sign that said who tackled who in the football game, so the announcers could call the game. And then from there, I went up to being one of the cameramen at the football game. I also did, all kinds of different crew shifts from camera. They moved me up to directing, technical directing, and I was kind of the one that was in charge of all the technical facilities. So if it was cable that had to be run, if it was a plot that had to be planned, anything technical, that was me. I was behind the scenes, but I also got to do a lot of feature packages, shooting, even eventually did a little bit of on-air work just because out of necessity. And my first paying gig job that I actually got was Mr. Bluestein contacted me and Jim Phillips at the time and told us that ESPN needed a feature package shot for their Scholastic Sports America show. So we got to go out to Collierville and shoot some video of a girl softball player. And that was my first paying gig. I got a check for $250 from ESPN. And I thought, hey, this is kind of cool, getting paid to do what I like to do. And 30 plus years later, here I am doing the same thing.
Well, like you said, you were known as a technical person, but you also said you did some on-air work. Tell us about that.
I did. And honestly, the on-air work begins in the playhouse, when we were in the theater, because, and I'm sure it's still the same way there now. If you do TV, you also have to do theater. Well, I was the last person in the world that you'd ever expect to get on stage and sing and dance and all that. I probably said maybe 5 words my entire high school career outside of the class. So, by making us perform in front of people and doing that, that really kind of paved the way for, I didn't become an anchor. I did a little sports anchoring a little bit later when for one of my first jobs. I was a reporter for an ABC station for a while. But all that really prepared me to do kind of pretty much anything that was out there, anything that was ahead of me to be a challenge. And, I really look back on those experiences and think, how well they prepared me to really kind of do anything that I've got to do. Even today, whenever I'm out at a station event, when they're short a reporter, I'm the one on camera doing a live shot for the news department. So, I still have to call up those old skills that I learned right there back at GHS-TV. A lot of what I do now is corporate comes to town from New York. I've got to do a big pitch, show our new promotional campaign or whatever. And like I told my daughters the other day, if you can sing and dance live in front of several hundred people, there's no corporate presentation you can't do. There's no live shot you can't do. And it really prepares you for what lies ahead. For the experiences that I got there at GHS-TV and the Poplar Pike Playhouse, I think about that a lot.
Well, you weren't only a student, you came back as a faculty member a few years later. Can you talk about that time?
I did. And the funny thing is I was literally maybe 4 years older than the kids going to school there. So, I used to get stopped in the cafeteria all the time when I'd go through the faculty line, and the lunch ladies would give me a hard time because they thought I was still a student there. That's how young I was. But it was a great experience. I got to teach, the film and video class. I got to be one of the teachers in the 4th period class, focusing primarily on television. So, I got to, when I was there, some of the students I had, Miss Rogers, Allison Rogers was one of the kids in the class. Wes Day, Ashley Siegfried at the time was in the class. So I got to, some of the folks that are still around there making their mark today. I got to be there when they were students. So that was a great experience. And there's nothing like flipping around and getting experience on the teaching side, because you really learn a whole new perspective when you're on that side of things. And that in and of itself really helped me to do what I do today, to communicate, to get points across. Now today, I also teach as an adjunct professor up at the University of North Texas, and to be able to talk for 3 hours at a time to a room full of college kids, it can be challenging. But A, I know what I like what I'm talking about because it's what I do, and B, I feel comfortable talking to them because I established that sense of confidence and that sense of presence right there back at GHS-TV and the PPP.
Well, Mr. Hershey, we have run out of time, but thank you for talking with us this evening.
Oh, I appreciate it. Good luck there.
Thank you. From the class of '87 to the class of 2001, we are now joined by Ashley Venneman, co-host of the 2000 Germantown Festival. Mrs. Venneman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Alan. I'm excited about it.
Well, tell us about some of the preparations for Germantown Festival in 2000.
Well, the festival was one of the first times that I was able to co-host something. And so it was so exciting to be able to be a part of something that was just a really, really big venture for anybody, but especially at my age. And so to be able to be a part of that and to go from the first year to doing a very first live report to being able to co-host it with Rob Edwards was so fun. So it was an amazing opportunity to be able to do that in high school.
When that crew list was passed out with your name as co-host of Germantown Festival, what went through your mind?
I was really excited, probably a bit nervous. It's been a little bit, but I was probably really nervous. But the amazing thing about working with GHS-TV is we never really were taught to doubt ourselves. And so if we were going to be able to do something, then we were going to be able to prepare for it. And if we were going to get an opportunity like that, then all we knew was to go for it and to just really be grateful for the opportunity. And I'm still grateful for those opportunities today.
Well, like you said, you hosted the festival alongside Rob Edwards in 2000. Tell us what hosting was like.
What hosting was like?
Yes.
Well, hosting was, it gave you a lot of experience as to what to do on the fly. And to be able to do something live was just a whole different kind of experience. So it was exciting to be able to see just everybody working together, the cameramen, all of the guests coming in, just having that kind of experience to be able to meet so many people from the community. And then it was a big responsibility that started my senior year. And I don't know, it made you feel a great ownership to GHS-TV and even more just excited to be a part of something that's so different and so just special to be a part of as a high school student.
Definitely. But what other positions did you have at GHS-TV during your time here?
Well, I was a producer and a co-host of a show called Memphis Medicine with Dr. Michael Bond, and so I was able to do that, and then just be able to work on a lot of different crews for all of the other shows that were going on. And then we had election night my senior year, so I was able to moderate election night, and that was just a fascinating experience. We were able to work with alumni that came in, which is I think that's what sets this program apart from so many others, is that you're able to learn from people who have gone before you and who readily come back to pour into you. And that's just something that you don't find in a lot of places. And so I loved every experience that was given to me, but even more just to be exposed to so many amazing people that, would take the time to invest in me. And so hopefully now that kind of inspires me to do that as an adult and as an alumni. And so that's why it's so exciting to, be a part of anything that GHS-TV is doing even now.
Well, what all did you take away from your experience here at GHS-TV?
I think probably one of the main things that I take away from my experience at GHS-TV is I learned at a really young age that I could try anything, and whether it be my very next step of college or anything professional afterwards, to just go for it. And but I think more importantly, I learned that it was not going to be handed to me, and I had to work really hard, and I needed to appreciate all of the team players that were a part of every experience. And that's how it was with GHS-TV. It wasn't just if I was on camera for the Germantown Festival or for election night. I was just one of just so many parts. And so it's about the people that are behind the scenes and about the people in front as well. And that is a lesson that just goes into play kind of in everything that you do in life.
Well, let's talk about you and what you're doing now. So we see you are a photographer.
Yes, I am. My husband and I own a photography business, and we founded Jarmon Photography right after we got married. And it wasn't even something that we ever just kind of saw ourselves doing, but in so many ways, what I learned even as early as high school, and then from there on out, was if an opportunity kind of presented itself, we were going to go for it. And so over the years, it's grown, and it's afforded the ability for me to be able to own a business and to work from my home. And I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. So that's probably the most important role that I have right now. And but to be able to be a professional that's in charge of what I do and to be able to give to my family is such a gift. And I think to be able to have, just a foundation of, not being, just afraid to take that next step that could be unexpected, just started all the way from, being even a freshman in high school.
Right. Well, Ms. Venneman, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me, Alan.
Let's bring in Jeff White, who hosted the Germantown Festival in 1996. Welcome to the show, Mr. White.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You hosted the festival with your co-host, Jackie Krimmel. Describe your experience.
It was, it was a blur, to be honest with you. It seemed to all happen so fast. We had put so much preparation into the show, and then the show actually happened. And then it just happened so fast, and I couldn't believe, that it was, when it was over, that we had actually done this, really fun, amazing live TV show.
I mentioned in another interview that the Germantown Festival is the first major project of the year. What made those preparations different from any other show at GHS-TV?
It's a unique show. It's a talk show. But it's also based on the tradition of the festival. So you have to learn a lot about the festival. You have to learn a lot about your guests that are coming on, both just the people that you're interviewing and the entertainment that's going to be there. It's not just you hosting. You got to work with your partner a lot. So there's a lot of different things about the festival that make it a unique television show to prepare for.
Well, what else did you do in your time here at GHS-TV?
I think I remember I did cable quiz at GHS-TV. I hosted some Wake Up Germantown. I was the sports anchor for Wake Up Germantown, and I also got to host the election night. So that was a lot of fun doing the election night in 1996.
Well, this year we just completed our 35th year of taping the Germantown Festival. Why do you think we have continued doing this all these years?
It's a tradition, and it's a great experience to do that kind of show. It's a wonderful learning experience, and it's unique, and it's just a lot of fun. And I think it's great that we're still doing it.
Well, this school year, you came back to Germantown High School as a theater teacher, and this was also your first experience working the Germantown Festival as a teacher supervisor. Was it surreal?
Yeah, it was a little surreal. It was fun to be in what we call Theaterland over there, and working on that end. And it was also great to see the TV show going on, and it was just like it was back when I did it in 1996. So it was definitely surreal, but I was really glad to be there. I'm really glad to be back at Germantown High School. It's a dream come true for me.
Well, like you said, what was it like watching the students today do exactly what you did in your time here?
Well, it was great because they were doing it a lot better than I did. And I mean, you all do just such an amazing job. And I'm always so proud and so inspired and in awe of the work that you all do. And you should always be commended for the great work that y'all do. It's truly amazing.
Well, thank you for joining us this evening, Mr. White.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Now, let's send things over to Kyle Bowers for a look at our award-winning newscast, Wake Up Germantown.
Thanks, Alan. I'm Kyle Bowers, one of this year's senior anchors for Wake Up Germantown. WUG, as we like to call it, is Germantown High School's student-run school news program. Every morning, GHS students tune in to hear the latest school news and announcements. Here's a deeper look into the history of GHS-TV's award-winning news program. Wake Up Germantown. Originally called Germantown News and Views, Wake Up Germantown has been around since 1983. During each broadcast, students get the experience of working on an actual news program in front of and behind the camera. Since its inception, the student-run news program has brought the Germantown community the latest local and national news, as well as sports.
Now in Germantown sports news, the Pat Nalen Wrestling Tournament will be Saturday in V-Gym.
To date, Wake Up Germantown remains the most award-winning show here at GHS-TV, bringing home more than 30 awards, including Student Emmys and Hometown Awards.
I'm Chris Barnett.
Some of our past anchors can be seen on TV screens or on the Broadway stage. Wake Up Germantown continues to bring GHS students the latest school announcements and international news, covering sports and entertainment in our extended edition of Wake Up Germantown.
That's all the news from around the world and here at home.
Joining us now from Lakeland, Tennessee is Dr. Ted Horrell, class of 1992. Dr. Horrell, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me to be here. It's an honor.
First off, let us know where you are right now.
I'm here at Lakeland Middle Preparatory School. I'm the superintendent of Lakeland School System, and this is a new school that we opened this year, actually. So it's only been open for a few months, and I'm up in one of the conference rooms overlooking the lobby of the school.
Well, Dr. Horrell, you were an anchor when the show was changed to Wake Up Germantown. How does it feel to be a part of this history?
It was really one of the great experiences of my life, really. It was exciting. We didn't have a daily morning news show, and in fact, those TVs that may still be there in the school, I'm not sure if they may still be the same TVs, were being installed so we could watch Channel 1. That was a brand new thing, and me and a couple of friends of mine had not been involved in the program and had heard that they were going to be doing a morning news show, so we talked to Mr. Bluestein about how we could get involved, and fortunately we were able to do so.
Well, what else did you do in your time here at GHS-TV?
I was involved. I was the anchor for Cable Quiz. There was a show at the time called Germantown News and Views, which was a weekly news show that we actually stopped doing once we started Wake Up Germantown. I was able to have parts in both the fall and spring musical that year. But at GHS-TV, mainly the Cable Quiz, and then producing and anchoring on Wake Up Germantown, Germantown News and Views. I anchored on the Germantown Festival coverage with Courtney Clements, so that was a great experience as well.
Well, you mentioned you produced Wake Up Germantown. What were some of your responsibilities?
Well, one of the main things was I came in and wrote the news every morning, the news headlines. I had read at the time, I thought I wanted to be a newscaster, and I'd read that Peter Jennings was both a anchor and a producer, and he did his own writing, and that was really important to me to try to do that. So I came in and wrote the news, and I helped with several of the segments and was in charge of organizing them behind the scenes, which was great because I wasn't just coming in and kind of being the anchor. I was really involved in a lot of different aspects of it.
Well, how does it feel to see how the show, along with the rest of the program, carry on the way it is today?
Oh, it's very gratifying. I think anytime you can be part of something from the beginning and then see it not only continue, but continue to improve as it has is great. I love it when I see the clips that you guys are doing and that your colleagues are doing there, and just carrying on the tradition. It's just, it's really fun to see that it stayed relevant and it's constantly being updated and reflects the way the news is now, which was the idea, was to learn how do people do the news, and you guys are doing it.
Well, as you mentioned, you are the current superintendent of the Lakeland school system, but before that, you were a teacher and later the principal here at GHS. How did GHS-TV help prepare you for these administrative positions?
Well, you know, I was thinking about that as I was thinking about the interview. I really think my experience at GHS-TV was one of the first times I really had to test my limits of how hard I could work at something. A lot of the things I had done, you know, I didn't have to work as hard maybe to get by. But when I got into GHS-TV in particular, it was very obvious that if I didn't work very, very hard, not only was I going to look bad, but I was going to make my classmates look bad and the station look bad and really the school. And in order for it to be what we all wanted it to be, it was going to take a tremendous amount of hard work, as you know. And that was really one of the first times that I was pushed to those limits. And that experience, kind of, once you learn how hard you're capable of working and how much better the end result is when you work that hard, it can't help but kind of show up in everything else you do. And I think it's affected me as a teacher and certainly as a principal and as a school superintendent.
Well, besides your day job, what else have you been up to lately?
Well, I've got two great kids. I'm married to my wife, Sarah. We've got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, Archer and Fletcher. So that takes up a lot of my time, which is wonderful. I also play in a band called Ted Horrell and the Monday Night Card, and I enjoy writing songs, and we're working on some new music now. And so that's kind of how I'm able to blow off steam when I'm not either with my family or working here at the school.
Well, you graduated 25 years ago, but you continue to support GHS-TV. Why is this important to you?
Well, you had to bring up 25 years, didn't you? I try not to think about that. But yeah, it's been a long time. Listen, GHS-TV was great to me and for me. I enjoyed when I came back to teach. I was able to obviously be part of GHS-TV and work with Mr. Mazur and so many other great people and work for Mr. Bluestein, which was, he's the one that asked me to come back. And that meant a lot to me and was a great part of my life. And then when I came back as principal, I just enjoyed being around GHS-TV when I could. So it's definitely something I'll support any way I can, as long as I can.
Out of all of your memories from GHS-TV, which is your favorite?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question. You know, I think as we, you know, as you got to the end. Well, I can tell you one. There was one experience. It was GHS-TV. It was when Bill Clinton was running for president, and a couple of other students and I decided that he was going to be speaking to a church in Midtown, and we decided to go hear him speak and see if we could get some footage and actually see if we could get an interview with him. And we managed to. We actually got him on camera. He answered a question about education, and it was exciting to be there because it was just an exciting time, and he was just starting to become a real prominent candidate. And the funny thing that happened was there was a local national broadcaster there, it was NBC, that had been there to get footage of Bill Clinton, and they had a technical issue and actually wound up using our footage. They asked Chris Ridenauer, who was doing the camera, you know, we just had a problem and our producers are expecting some footage of Bill Clinton. Can we use yours? So we called Mr. Bluestein and said, what do we do? And he said, yeah, let him use it. And we actually got a credit. GHS-TV, if I remember, got a credit on the national news that next morning.
Well, Dr. Horrell, thank you so much for talking with us today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And thanks for all you guys are doing, and congratulations on 35 years.
Like we've mentioned, we're traveling across the country and world tonight talking to alumni. Let's bring in Aaron Williams, who's out in Los Angeles. Hi, Aaron. Thank you for joining us for this anniversary show.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Well, first off, update us. What are you doing in LA?
Right now, I am focusing on art and design. So I'm a freelance designer out here. I do everything from murals to hand lettering projects. I produce and art direct on set and on photo shoots. So I have my hands involved in all kinds of creative endeavors right now.
Well, like Dr. Horrell, who was just on, you were a Wake Up Germantown anchor your senior year from 03 to 04. Can you talk about how your on-air work prepared you for what you're doing now?
Yeah, it prepared me in so many ways that I had no idea at the time. The first thing that comes off the top of my head would be just learning to communicate with coworkers and teammates and guests who would come on the shows, learning time management skills and just how to best present myself and communicate my ideas and thoughts plays a major role in what I do right now and how many people I work with every day on a day-to-day basis, just even through emails, from being on set to working with major companies and brands. It's been a huge impact in helping me to just become the kind of caliber creative and entrepreneur that I am today.
Anchoring wasn't your only position. What else did you do at GHS-TV?
At GHS-TV, I was a lead producer on Crosstalk. I was a live anchor for the Germantown Festival, and I was also a reporter for local television stations in conjunction with GHS-TV.
Well, in 2016, you came back to Germantown to teach a sketch comedy workshop. How did it feel to see how the current students are carrying on the program?
It was one of the most incredible weeks of my life. It was so much fun to get to connect with the kids and remember how I felt being on that stage and in those workshops, and enjoy the time teaching them what I know now, and just kind of being able to relate in what they felt like in their shoes, and just enjoy being back on the stage and doing the same kind of warm-up exercises and making the same kind of jokes, and just kind of reminiscing on all those great times we had on stage. But I mean, there are still some incredible kids coming through that stage and through those doors at that building, and I was just nothing but impressed by how professional and enthusiastic and kind and excited every single kid we worked with was, and it was just such an honor to be there, to get invited back and to even just be asked to come contribute in that way. It was the least I could do, and I enjoyed every second of it.
Well, earlier you mentioned a couple lessons you learned here, but which one is the most important to you?
I think the biggest thing I took away from GHS-TV and PPP was just going after what you love and just throwing yourself into it. I mean, I remember late nights and early mornings and not wanting to get up and go to school, but always wanting to go to rehearsal or a production meeting or get on set and just get my hands dirty and be involved in the projects. And that's something that I am just forever thankful for. And I would say to anybody involved right now that the program that they have at GHS is so special, and it offers some incredible things for kids that you don't get in a regular classroom. And I would never take any of that experience back.
Well, Erin, thank you so much for talking with us this evening.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Now, here's Rachel Christopherson.
Thank you, Kyle. I'm Rachel Christopherson, junior producer for GHS-TV's award-winning talk show, Crosstalk. Crosstalk is completely different from our other access shows because it is produced and hosted by GHS-TV students. Since its inception, Crosstalk has had a major impact on the station and has shaped hosts and producers into what they are today. Let's take a look at Crosstalk. Crosstalk has been an important part of GHS-TV for as long as the station has been around. The station's oldest running show, Crosstalk highlights people, places, and events that make up the community of Shelby County and beyond. It is the only show at GHS-TV that is taped weekly and is completely produced by students. Throughout the years, Crosstalk hosts have interviewed everyone from civil rights leaders Terrence Roberts and Benjamin Hooks to Broadway composer Charles Strouse and Saturday Night Live star Chris Parnell. Each student who has hosted or worked on the show has left Germantown High School with a higher cultural awareness and more knowledge about their community through the guests and events that are featured. Joining me now from Oakland, California to talk about her experience as a Crosstalk host is producer Alex Shansky, who many GHS-TV alumni would know as Alex Jarmon. Hi, Ms. Shansky. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Hey, thanks, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
After graduating from GHS, you attended NYU and majored in film producing and marketing. In what ways did working at GHS-TV influence your school and career choices?
Gosh, well, working at GHS obviously gave me an opportunity to work in the television studio, where I learned that I wanted to go into producing. There were a lot of opportunities that we were given there, both in front of the camera and behind the camera, and I enjoyed both very much. But it was ultimately through producing shows like Crosstalk and The Auction and working with a team of people to put something together that I realized that I wanted to go into producing. At the time, I didn't know whether or not it was going to be film or TV or commercials, yeah, I just had a lot of opportunities there, and ultimately I ended up going into commercials.
During your senior year, you had the opportunity to host Crosstalk. What was your favorite part about hosting the talk show?
We did have a very cool interview with the Memphis Mafia, the three guys that were closest to Elvis. And at the age of, I think, 17 or 18 as a high school senior, I got to interview Sam Phillips from Sun Studios, which is now looking back a pretty big deal. I don't think I fully realized it at the time, but getting to interview somebody who was so critical to music history was really a cool opportunity.
Besides GHS-TV, you were also very involved with the PPP. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, working on GHS-TV, you are also very involved in the PPP program. While I was in the PPP, I was in all the different fall shows and musicals, including Fools and Rumors and South Pacific and Pippin and, Rags. There were a lot of different ones. I was president of the Thespian Troupe my senior year. And I also got to work on ad sales, where we sold, tens of thousands of dollars worth of ads, which was huge too for, a group of high school students to do. So yeah, I loved my time at the PPP and at GHS-TV. Some of my closest friends to this day I met in this program, and you guys are all kind of in the trenches together, so it's an exciting opportunity that you have, and it's a rare one.
You've worked at a variety of places, including DreamWorks and Sony Pictures Classics. What has been your favorite job you've had so far?
Yeah, so those were some fun internships that I got to do in college at NYU. I got to work at some big name studios that were, it was fun to be exposed to that side of film producing. Once I actually got into my career path, I worked at a company called Charlex for the past 11 years, where I got to, and continue to get to work on animation projects and visual effects projects for commercials. And I think that has been my favorite job so far because of the amazing creative team that I get to work with, and getting to see an idea start on paper and then get fully produced and realized on TV, and getting to actually see your work on TV too is pretty cool.
Ms. Shansky, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for having me.
A few moments ago, we spoke with Alex Jarmon Shansky, a former Crosstalk host and current producer who got her start in front of the camera. Now, we move on to an alum who spent most of his time behind the scenes, directing TV shows and newscasts, creating graphics, and editing news reports. It's my pleasure to welcome Misha Mazur onto our show.
Hello.
Hi, Misha. Thank you so much for
Hey.
coming.
Thanks for having me.
As we know, you directed Crosstalk. What are your favorite memories of this?
It's taking me back. It's some of these things you're going to ask me. It's probably going to be hard to remember the details. I don't know. It's been, I think, since 2003. I'm not good at math, but it's probably a lot of years. I don't actually remember the directing that. I remember we made a new set of openings for Crosstalk. We did one for Michelle Hayes. I remember we went down to Beale Street and shot some footage, and then we. This is Mr. Mazur and I, my dad. We got into the car and opened up the sunroof, and I got out of the sunroof while we were on the highway, shooting the Memphis Bridge, and that got into one of those openings. And that was one of the first graphical things I did for GHS. I remember that it was a fun experience, and I learned a lot on that too.
Like many GHS-TV alumni, you accomplished a lot during your time here. What were your positions in the studio?
I gained positions as the years went on. I think I started when I was in the 7th grade or so, because my father was working there. So I got a chance to, visit him at work. And I think I started, the first thing I ever edited, I was still like in grade school. So I don't know if that's my as an editor position. That's when it started. But then officially, I did the website. I did a website redo. So I became kind of like the graphics person, then motion graphics, and then a general manager. I think I kind of went all the way from the bottom all the way to the general manager position. Throughout the 4 years that I was there, and before even going to high school, I was kind of like always there.
When you were the general manager your senior year, GHS-TV was entered for the first time into the National Student Production Awards, and Wake Up Germantown, under your direction, won this award. This was the first year that the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences added this category to the Emmy Awards. What was this experience like for you?
Wake Up Germantown.
Yeah, I think we did win some things. I remember less the winning than the mornings. I remember the Wake Up Germantown mornings. Those are going to be hard to forget. Waking up, I don't know, maybe even before 5 or something, and driving up to school. And my year was like the first year we really kind of revamped or reinitiated Wake Up Germantown. It was on a hiatus for many years. So we kind of like made a new graphics package. We had new cameras at that point. So we figured out new camera movements, new camera angles. So it's fun to kind of like reinvent the show, because sometimes when you're picking up where someone left off, it's a different experience, whether as opposed to like creating something new. We had a chance to do that my year. And yeah, maybe we won some stuff. That's great to hear.
During your years at GHS-TV, you made a short film as a creative project that helped you get into the National Endowment of the Arts weekend in Miami, Florida. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we made a film with a foreign exchange student, Gregor Ilg. This is part of a 5-minute creative project we used to do in the production class. So everyone had a few weeks or so to make a 5-minute creative something. It could be a piece of art, it could be a performance. We made this short film. And then actually that little film, I think, helped me get into college in the end. And yeah, I went to this weekend in Miami. I think they still do this. They pick, I think they pick like 5 kids in like the film category out of the whole country. So that little short got me in there. And then we got to meet some Hollywood actors and hang out with really the best of the best artists of that same age across the country.
Last year, you hosted a graphics and lights workshop for the students at GHS-TV. What is your opinion on the current students in the program?
Current students, they're wonderful. We had a good time. They were very attentive. It was the first class I've ever done, so I think I was worrying more about myself than about them. But they were very receptive to the information. I think they got a lot out of it. I hope.
One of the greatest advantages of the GHS-TV program is the strong connection between alumni and the program itself. Why do you think it's important to continue this tradition?
It's important just from personal experience. Somehow, when alumni used to come back, they were very inspirational to me personally. Seeing how what people do in the quote unquote real world, having the kind of standard to live up to, having a mentor, it meant a lot personally. I think it helped push me. Managed to continue.
What are you doing now in your career?
I'm a partner at a video production, post-production facility in Atlanta called Mad Hat Creative. We do on-air commercials. And in my personal endeavors, I'm looking for opportunities to shoot narrative film. I do shooting and editing in this company, and that's what I'd like to continue doing professionally.
Well, that's all the time we have today, Mr. Misha. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I'd like to thank you and Mr. John Hayes for your continuous support for GHS-TV and the Fine Arts Department.
Thank you.
Before I sign off, here's a special look at some of the Crosstalk hosts throughout the decades.
As you can see, Crosstalk really does look at different issues, personalities, and events affecting you and our community. From national celebrities and issues to musicians and local personalities, Crosstalk has become a part of the life of our ever-growing and changing community. As we bring our show to an end today, I would like to invite all of the past hosts to join me in saying, from all of us here at Germantown Community Television,
we hope that you'll be with us next month on Crosstalk. I'm Nikki Robertson.
Thank you for watching, and we hope you tune in next week. Thanks for watching, and have a pleasant evening.
We'd like to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for watching, and have a pleasant day.
This is all for now. This has been Crosstalk. Good night.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching Crosstalk.
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 We hope to see you again next week.
We look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you so much for watching Crosstalk. Thank you for watching Crosstalk.
Thank you for watching Crosstalk, and I hope to see you again.
What a great look back. Now, once again, here's Rodney McKinner.
Thanks, Rachel. Throughout the years, GHS-TV students have had the opportunity to travel the world. Our student exchange program began more than 20 years ago with a trip to Russia. Since then, GHS-TV students have visited multiple countries, exposing them to culture beyond Germantown. Let's take a look.
I'm Anna Godwin.
I'm Demetrius Johnson.
And I am Marina Smirnova. Welcome to Moscow, Memphis.
From the U.S. all the way to the Eastern Hemisphere, Germantown High School Television has visited a variety of countries around the world. Whether performing on stage for a huge crowd or taking an educational visit, GHS-TV has continued the tradition for years, influencing the lives of its students.
This magnificent building is Moscow State University.
The first exchange took place in 1995 when students visited the Moscow International Film School in Russia. This exchange was significant for two reasons. First, GHS-TV students performed the Fantastics around the region, becoming the first theater troupe to perform the play in Russia.
Try to remember, and if you remember, then follow.
Students also used handheld cameras, capturing their experience, which was later turned into the special feature 100 Visions.
That was such a great report. I liked the new spin of it, and yeah, I liked it so much.
Other exchanges include Germany and even Georgia.
Peace, love, and happiness are lofty ideals that Georgians throughout many centuries have valued.
The exchange program has been beneficial in a variety of ways. This program has helped students explore life outside of Germantown, which in turn has given them the drive and determination to pursue their dreams. Tonight we are sending you around the world to talk with participants from 3 of our most successful exchanges. Let's start with Russia and the Moscow Film School. Sergei Grachov was the leader there in 1995. He joins us now via Skype from London. Good evening, Mr. Grachov. Thank you for joining us. Talk about how this exchange came about.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So the exchange has started from an absolutely crazy idea of us thinking, why don't we go to the States?
Well, during the exchange, what effect did your school have on GHS and vice versa?
Well, that's quite a lot of things that happened because they were here for a few weeks and we took them around Russia and it was quite interesting. So there were lots of things going on.
Well, a lot happened during the Russian part of the exchange. What did GHS students do while they were at your school?
That was a long time ago, but they were able to visit all different places in Russia and they were interacting with the local students and they were living in each other's houses and it was quite impressive for the time because the time was just some 4 years after the Cold War.
What did you find unique about the program that made you want to allow students from GHS to come and get such an experience at your school?
Well, we were so different and it was really hard to believe that this exchange is actually happening because again, there was only some 4, maximum 5 years after the Iron Curtain was up. And I think that was the most impressive thing, you know, kids talking to each other on the streets of Moscow after only a few years after, you know, after this was a complete cold relationship between the two countries, and they were hunting each other in the espionage.
Well, what did you hope that your students get out of the exchange?
That's interesting because they never saw actually any foreigners coming to Russia. And I think it was quite impressive that not only they can come to Russia, but also they can live in their homes and they can interact with them and they can work together. This was what impressive for the Russians.
Well, you are now an international affairs lawyer. How did you make that transition from the Moscow International Film School?
That was a long story. I sometime realized that this is very interesting, but I have to move on. And since I've established my own law practice in London, and this is my new life.
Well, Mr. Grachov, thank you so much for talking with us. I know it is very late where you are. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
Let's now bring in GHS-TV alum Anna Graves, who participated in the Russian exchange. Good evening, Mrs. Graves. How are you?
Good evening, Sir Rodney. I'm very well. And yourself?
I'm great. Well, when you went on the exchange, it was completely new to GHS-TV. Why did you want to become a part of it?
How long is your program? I had never been out of the country, and it was an amazing opportunity to get to experience and meet new people who we had so much in common with, and we knew that. We knew that this was going to be, we hoped it would be an exchange on both sides where we would each really learn something from each other, and that's exactly what ended up happening, and it ended up exceeding my expectations.
Well, Russia is a huge country. What are some of the activities and events that you took part in?
Oh, we went to the theater, we went to the Kremlin Ballet, we went to St. Basil's Cathedral, Red Square, I saw Swan Lake, There were shopping streets and markets and the universities we went to visit. I went to a live taping of a TV show while I was there. It was amazing, like how much we were able to cram into, I think what was a 2-week trip, as well as put on our own performances that we had arranged to perform around the country.
Well, what was your favorite part of the exchange?
My favorite part, beside getting to perform on the stages, because like in Yaroslavl, Russia, there was a fantastic theater. It was a very historic building, and I just felt very privileged to get to be an American in this space and get to be a performer, dancing and singing with my friends and doing classic American musical numbers that, I don't know, perhaps some of the children in that town had never seen or never heard, and to introduce them to a little bit of our culture. Besides that huge chunk, the most important part of it was the relationships that I built.
How did your experience at GHS affect your life in the entertainment career today?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Rodney. I do voiceover for a living. So I've lived in Los Angeles for almost 20 years. And when I was at GHS, I was given the opportunity to spread my performing wings and learn about improv and stage combat and building sets and being part of productions and working in the TV studio as an anchor and as a talk show host. And all of those things gave me the confidence and also made me realize what kind of a performer I wanted to be, which is a voice actor. And now I'm very lucky that I have gotten to live that dream.
Well, what else are you up to today?
I've been doing a lot of auditions. I'm currently the voice on the K Jewelers campaigns. So if you guys are watching the football games and you feel like there's a lot of commercials on telling you should buy diamonds for your ladies, that's exactly what's happening. And I am the voice of K Jewelers. Every kiss begins with K. I also am the voice of Omni Hotel and Resorts. I do a lot of their radio spots, Pandora and Spotify. I am the voice of Food Lion grocery stores back east, and did a lot of new video games this year. Have a new virtual reality Jurassic Park video game that's coming out. A few new episodes of a new Netflix cartoon, which I can't tell you about yet. It's a secret, but I've recorded 6 episodes of that. And like last night, I got to go on a video podcast and just chat Star Wars with a bunch of fantastic Star Wars fans. That interview will be airing soon. I did a lot of characters on Star Wars: The Clone Wars. So here's one of my characters, the Duchess Satine of Mandalore. She was Obi-Wan Kenobi's special someone, and also the regent of a very large star system. So a lot of responsibility there. But I've played Jedi and bounty hunters and lived a very dangerous life in a very safe, small, confined voiceover booth.
Well, that sounds great. Well, Mrs. Graves, thank you so much for being on our show this evening.
Thank you, Rodney. Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure. And congratulations to you and the department. I am so incredibly proud of GHS-TV.
Thank you. In 1997, GHS-TV students participated in a cultural exchange with students from the television profile school of Tbilisi, Georgia. We're so excited because some of those same Georgian students have all gathered together in Tbilisi to talk with us. Hello, Georgia.
Hello. Hello.
Well, Mr. Zurab, you were the leader of the Georgian part of this exchange. How did the idea to organize this exchange come about?
Hello, everybody. I am happy to congratulate on the anniversary of Germantown High School TV from the other side of the ocean. Yes, I was a leader of Georgian parts of the exchange, but the idea belonged to Mr. Bluestein. He had already decided on the Russian film school as a partner when he visited Moscow to meet his colleagues. There he came across the films made by my students and changed this mind of the Georgian television school.
Well, this is to anyone. Did anything during the exchange surprise you, or was it what you expected?
Maya, please, ladies first.
Thank you. Actually, it was not being surprised. It was about meeting new people and getting new experiences. It was first time when I became very aware that at the same time we can be very different and very similar. And since then I learned to respect and appreciate that.
Yeah, kind of same here. Since it was my first experience with the US, you can expect there was quite a few things surprising for me. But the most, I would say the biggest thing that surprised me was the realization that even though there was so much different between us, say, I don't know, political and geographical, economical and so forth and so forth. Basically, we were just the same bunch of teenagers having the same, problems, the same aspiration, the same, ideas, and that was the lesson learned for me that, was very valuable.
Well, Mr. Zurab, what was the role that you played? Were you still a teacher during the exchange?
According to the plan, the function were assigned to both of us in advance. I had to plan and later carry out daily basis activities as well as cultural and creative events during the visit of the American delegation. Georgian and American teachers were responsible for maintaining the project content.
Well, what lesson or experience did you take away from the exchange with GHS-TV? And anyone can answer.
Please.
No, you.
Ladies first, as usual.
Experience, the biggest experience I got actually was to listening each other and understanding each other. Thus we were talking different languages. That was the most important part, what I have learned.
Yeah, and I did professionally as well. There was much to learn during these weeks that we spent there, because it was, the new environment for us. And even though we spent a couple of years prior, working in TV settings in Georgia, seeing how our American friends are, producing the same stuff was very, valuable for us.
Well, there is one person who couldn't be with you this evening, Irakli Imnashneli, who is a journalist with BBC in London. He shared these memories of the exchange with us.
The entire trip was incredible. I remember the very first moment, greeting at the airport with cameras, lights, posters. We felt like we were movie stars. And another highlight is my American host, my American brother, Justin Bunter. His girlfriend was coming every morning to give us a lift. The biggest problem was to find a parking place, but once we had parked the car and entered the school, the rest was magical. Preparation is one of the biggest takeaways. We Georgians, we do not like to prepare. We like to improvise. In many cases, the result is not as good as we want it to be. During my exchange project with Germantown High School Television, you taught me the importance of preparation stage, and it is still very relevant to me here at the BBC. It was one and only exchange project in my life. I have visited America several times. I've done documentary about America after September 11, but that first journey is like first love, which is very precious. During our exchange project, we were immersed into the full-scale production. It was a television run by teenagers. And in a way, you have poisoned me with an idea to work for an international media company. Now in the multimedia era, you have to be good almost in everything. You have to be good in filming, editing, researching. You have to be cameraman as well as a reporter. And that was reality 20 years ago in the school when I spent 5 amazing years. Despite the fact that that was a civil war in Tbilisi, Georgian Youth TV created the foundation of my professional journalistic career.
Thank you, Mr. M. Nashnelli. Now we're going to talk back with the Georgians. This is a question for anyone. Looking back, what is your favorite memory from the exchange?
I'll be the first. There are several great memories, not only one, of course, but one of my favorite is when we arrived in Memphis and our plane landed and we were leaving the plane through the jetway, and first from our team went out from it, and suddenly I heard, I don't know, very loud, happy, welcoming screaming, and our American friends were waiting for us, and I felt so special and important. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was a good one. And if I had to single out another experience, I would say it was our trip to Memphis when we visited the Elvis Presley's museum and spent a very nice evening in a B.B. King's club. That was a very special evening for all of us.
Yes, and one of our friends even made some gym session with one of the very old and interesting artist there, you remember?
Well, Mr. Zurab, everyone, thank you so much for sharing your memories and experiences with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The theater and television exchange trip to Ludwigshafen, Germany was a unique experience for our GHS Fine Arts Department. The participating students not only had the opportunity to produce television shows and perform American theater outside of the country, but also they experienced the sights, sounds, and way of life of the German culture. This was a successful exchange because the two groups of students and teachers worked together so well. One of the teachers that oversaw this exchange was Gerhard Lobscher. He joins us live from Germany. Hello, Mr. Lobscher. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you. Greetings from Germany.
Well, during the German exchange, you worked on strictly TV projects. Can you talk about the two shows that were produced?
Well, okay, we had some cooperation here with the American students here, and it was about German folklore, about sagas, and so on, and we led them to various locations here near Ludwigshafen, and we had a great time in putting together a very, very nice sequence of broadcasts. And the same happened, of course, when we were in Germantown, when we had a TV event there together. And I think all of my students, and I hope of your students too, enjoyed this very much.
Did you see a difference in TV studios between the one in Germany and the one here at GHS-TV?
Okay, basically it's the same, but of course your studio is on a much grander scale, of course, and it's okay. We try to imitate you a little bit, but of course with our budget, and we couldn't get quite close to it. But nevertheless, I think our students were very familiar with your equipment when we were there, and they were able to put on a show on their own, and it was a very wonderful experience for both of our sides, I think.
Well, during the exchange, did you find that there was a relationship that was formed between the students that helped them work together?
Absolutely, absolutely. That was the best part of this cooperation. It's the young people who decide what this cooperation is about, and these relationships develop very easily, and I must say thanks to Alison Long, I think she's called now, because she put together the couples and they were a perfect fit. And and I think they even had a lot of connections after this exchange.
You were a teacher during the German exchange. Are you still a teacher today?
No, I'm not. I've retired. I retired last year, and I use the time now for to get around the world, of course. But I still have some connection to my old outfit in my old school, and sometimes I go there and have a look at what's going on there.
Well, what type of effect did the exchange leave on you and your students?
Well, to be honest with you, for me it was the highlight of my career because this whole project took a time to develop, and that it came to fruition and in such a very, very incredible way was wonderful for me. It was so exhilarating to work with my counterparts there, to work with my own colleagues, with my students. And, as I said, it was a climax of my career.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lobster, for being here today. Thank you for all the information that you shared.
Thank you for having me.
In 2005, GHS-TV established a relationship with a new partner school in Germany. One of the German students during that exchange was Patrick Nostel. He joins us live from Germany. Good evening, Mr. Nostel.
Hey, good evening, guys.
Well, looking back 12 years ago, what do you remember about the exchange with GHS-TV?
Well, there are several aspects. One is that we visited many sites in the vicinity of Germantown, like the Beale Street or Graceland in Memphis. And we also visited a Memphis Grizzlies game, which was the first time I've ever seen a basketball game. That was very great. And I also remembering when we were sitting together, the whole exchange group, and we had a great time together. You guys were so nice to us. And when we were watching movies in the evening or playing games like laser tag, or we went out, that was great. But also the work with GHS-TV was very impressive for me and for us. Well, we had to wake up very early every day to make and to assist you in your TV shows. And you really had impressive equipment, and it was very great hospitality.
Well, is there a lesson or experience that sticks with you to this day?
Yeah, well, it's kind of project management. You know, we had one big project that initiated when we arrived and closed when we were leaving. We made one big TV shows, and we had all the up and downs. It was very stressy and also pressure and with lots of emotions. So just to see how a project can develop.
Well, you are now a pilot flying all over the world. Where did that passion for air travel come from?
Yeah, well, I'm very interested in technical matters, to understand them and to work with them. And this is also combined with traveling around the world. And this is a very good combination for me. And somehow it is also the same fascination a small boy has when he stands at an airport fence watching airplanes departing and arriving.
Well, how did the exchange with GHS-TV prepare you for what you are doing today?
I think the most important thing for me was the language proficiency. It was the first time for me to speak English the whole day long without any help of German, but also soft skill competences like teamwork ability or communication or even leadership.
Well, Mr. Nostel, I know it is very late where you are. Thank you for staying up and talking with us.
Okay, great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. GHS-TV alum Chris McKinley, as a student and alumni, traveled all around the world from Moscow to Tbilisi and even all around Europe. He joins us via Skype from LA. Hello, Mr. McKinley. Good evening.
Hey, Rodney.
Well, you did the Russia exchange as a student. Explain your role during this exchange.
During that exchange at the Playhouse, I was the lighting director while I was there. So my main role in the exchange was to do the lighting. We were doing the production of the Fantastics, and so I did the lighting for that. And then on the video side, I was a videographer. So we were doing sit-down interviews and then just running around all over Moscow, shooting B-roll and all sorts of little scenes.
Well, can you talk about working with students whose first language was not English? Did anything get lost in translation?
It was a little bit of a challenge. I would say probably the bigger challenge, though, was sort of the sort of cultural differences between the two different schools. For as much as we had in common, you know, Germantown students are very professional, very sort of buttoned up. We like to start a project and then finish it. And the Russians were a little bit more sort of experimental, a little bit more kind of let's start with one idea, see how it evolves, maybe take a break for a few hours, then maybe we'll finish it, maybe we won't. So it was a great exchange in that way because we sort of, I think, taught each other a little bit about each other's way of working.
Do you have a favorite memory from the exchange?
Oh, geez, there's a lot. I mean, one of my favorite memories would have to be, I think it was it Yaroslav? I think it was there was a town in Moscow, in between Moscow and St. Petersburg, that we performed the Fantastics in, and then this sort of Broadway review that we were doing at the same time. It was a very old theater, and it was just packed with people. Thousands and thousands of people had come out from this relatively small town in Russia, and it was exciting. And my interactions during the setup for the play was mostly with the technical crew at these Russian theaters. And so I was collaborating with this old guy who was the lighting director at this theater that had been around for hundreds of years. And he spoke no English at all. I didn't speak any Russian at all. But we somehow kind of cobbled it together and then put on this performance for these thousands of folks who came out. So it was pretty exciting.
Well, there is so much to learn during an exchange program. And here at GHS-TV, are there still skills you learned that you still use in your career today?
I was thinking today about different sort of takeaways that I had from the program. And one was actually, I don't know if you guys still do the Thespian Troupe 912 induction ceremony the same way. But there's a line in that goes, I'm a student of the theater and excellence is my ideal. And that was in there back then anyway. And to me, that's really what I try to do every day at work. I mean, I try to be a student of it. It's not like, I think that line is not about the fact that you guys are students now. It's the fact that you have to be a student of your work every day. You have to keep sort of learning and finding ways to improve yourself and challenge yourself about what you don't know. And to go to places that are unknown to you, that are a little bit scary, a little bit different, to kind of challenge yourself. So that's one of my favorite lines, and a sort of a line that echoes in my mind every once in a while. I'm a student of the theater, and excellence is my ideal.
Well, what is the main thing that stuck with you from your time at GHS-TV?
Well, I mean, there's all the same sort of mantras that I'm sure you guys get drilled into you too. You know, check, double check, and check again. And the fun is in the work is a big one for me. And then also just the sense of mentorship that you get from that I got anyway from the high school experience and from both GHS-TV and the Playhouse. You know, bringing people along with you, learning from your peers, being open to people's different ideas, and being willing to share what you know and learn from other people.
Your documentary, Finding Vivian Maier, was nominated for an Oscar. Can you tell us about this experience?
It was great. That was fun. I mean, it was just a project that I was really lucky to be a part of. It was myself, and there were actually 2 other editors involved in it. But then outside of that, it was a pretty small crew. It was similar to sort of some of the things that we did even there at the high school. I remember doing a documentary with Leonid Mazur that we did, just he and I, when I was there with Hubert Soffer, I think was a director who had come to visit and do some talks there. So it was sort of a similar thing, really. I mean, the editing process we did on my laptop. It was, again, like I said, it was me, a couple of other editors, a couple of other filmmakers involved in the process, the director and producer, and that was it. So the experience was pretty wild because it went from that, which is a very small crew, And then it was just one of those things that kind of got some notice, and luckily a lot of people got to see it.
Well, Mr. McKinley, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Now I'm going to send it over to Avery Moore with a look at one of GHS-TV's most exciting shows.
Thank you, Rodney. I'm Avery Moore, presidential race producer for Election Night 2016. This show will always hold a special place in my heart. I, like all the producers before me, spent much of the year preparing for this one-of-a-kind experience, and I felt nothing short of prepared by the time we went live. Let's take a closer look at what Election Night is all about. GHS-TV has been covering Election Night for nearly 30 years now. This is a great chance for students to learn about the election process and learn how to produce a live show that could change at a moment's notice. On any given year, GHS-TV covers national, state, and local races. In addition to race results, local leaders and politicians stop by, and our analysts break down some of the close races. It wasn't until recently that local race results were released online. For years, GHS-TV students would poll Germantown voters as they left the polls, and every year, GHS-TV has reported the most accurate gubernatorial exit poll predictions. Student anchors and their producers work together for months leading up to the election to learn everything they can about the candidates and any twists and turns the race could take on election night. They are held to a very high standard to produce accurate results and political analysis. These standards not only help students succeed on election night, but in their future careers as well.
Thank you for watching Germantown High School's live coverage of Election Night 2016, and have a great evening.
Joining us now from Washington, D.C. is Amy Fenton, overall producer for Election Night 2008 and currently a producer at Fox News. Welcome to the show, Mrs. Fenton.
Hello.
First, tell me a little about your time at GHS-TV.
Well, first, Election Night was probably the highlight of my entire time there. I actually was going to be a chemical engineer when I went to college, but after that experience, I decided that I wanted to be in television, and so I went to University of Missouri, and it was the best decision that I did make. I was on Crosstalk. I did a lot of stuff behind the scenes, producing and other activities, because they make you work at GHS-TV, but it's only for great experience. And I am 100% positive that the efforts and the work that I did at GHS put me on the path that I'm at now. And I'm now working at Fox News Channel, working with Dana Perino, the former White House press secretary, and it's been great.
Well, 2008 was a very historic election. How did it feel to be a part of history?
I enjoyed that so much, watching it, knowing that the efforts that I was doing in the small town and everything, from just like the local elections all the way to the presidential election, I knew that it was going to be an experience that I would take beyond 2008. And now, after working in 2016 at Fox News, I would say that I've pulled skills that I learned in 2008 into 2016, and I'm sure that it probably will do the same for 2020.
Now, there's so much that goes into producing an election night. So what specific skills were you able to take with you?
It is a huge planning effort. I remember talking to colleges saying, I had 250 students working underneath me, from the exit polls to the actual television production, plus all of the back planning that you did for that, having all of the anchors know their gubernatorial races, their senatorial races, all of that. And so being on top of all of it, being in charge of everything going on, made me become more organized in a way, but also to realize that I like working on these long-term projects, learning what to do to make the TV magic happen. And I would use those skills, every day in my work. Today, you still have to do long-term planning, but you also have to be ready to do something on the fly.
Now, you mentioned that GHS-TV definitely influenced your decision to go into a career in television, but what made you choose producing?
Well, I hate being on camera, so it's good that I'm doing this interview. I did on-camera stuff, at Crosstalk, and even reporting at the local NBC affiliate in Columbia, Missouri. And what I found is that I like spending all of my time and effort until the exact second that it happens on air. And at some point, for me at least, when you're on camera, you have to stop and think about how you look, think about tweaking your script, and you no longer can make those changes. When you're in the control room, you can be changing the script 3 seconds before it's happening. And so I like having that, you're the last person to touch it before it goes onto television. And I really have a logistical brain. And so planning is more fun for me than, I guess, being on TV.
Well, you mentioned you went to the University of Missouri. How did your experiences there influence what you're doing now?
Well, Missouri is a great program. I have my job because of University of Missouri. A graduate of the program reached out to me and said, "Do you want to work in DC?" And so, I credit the job that I have today definitely to University of Missouri. You get hands-on experience, very similar to GHS-TV, that you don't get anywhere else. Working at the NBC affiliate, being able to have a reel, being able to produce the 10 p.m. news, those kinds of skills I really appreciate within the program at Missouri. And I would say that also helped me set on my track to being here.
Well, when you say here, you do mean your new career as a producer, still at Fox. Tell us a little about your new job.
Yeah, so I am the booker for Dana Perino's new show on Fox, which is The Daily Briefing, which is great because, number one, she was the press secretary, and also usually the White House briefings happen around 2 o'clock Eastern time. So she's the one who's tossing it essentially to Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Wrapping around the news headlines. Because it's a very heavy politics show, I do get to use my politics brain that I've developed over the past few years being in DC. So I, get to deal with all of the people on Capitol Hill, the White House, all of that business. But yeah, so I bring people on television depending on the different news of the day topics.
Well, that's really great, and I congratulate you on your new job. I'm sorry, that's all the time we have for now, but thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks.
Now we're moving back in time to the 2000 election and those infamous hanging chads. Carmen Triplett Watson was the gubernatorial producer that year. She joins us now via Skype. Mrs. Watson, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me.
Well, now you work at the world-renowned St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Tell us a little about what you do there.
Oh, I have the opportunity to raise money and awareness for such an amazing cause. Children that are treated at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital are treated really at the rarest cases, those children with cancer, those kids fighting sickle cell disease and other blood diseases. So my job is to spread awareness, specifically with partnering with our celebrity and key industry influencers, so they lend their talents, they lend their voices to raise money and awareness for St. Jude.
Well, even though you didn't pursue a career in television, surely you were able to take some skills from your time here at GHS-TV.
Absolutely. The ironic part is I work a lot with television hosts and producers and celebrities and all kinds of people that are on TV. So a lot of the work that I did behind the scenes at GHS-TV with the organization, with building out schedules, with building out shows and organizing all that good stuff, I learned all of that at GHS-TV. So it was a great experience being able to work and to learn from that experience.
What were some of the more specific things you did at GHS-TV?
I remember I was the producer of Storytime, and I don't think you all have that show anymore, but basically we got preschoolers together, and there was a lady who read stories to them, so I was the producer for that. So I was literally in charge for the full execution of that show, and also I was the gubernatorial producer. So again, being able to work behind the scenes, really understanding politics as a, I think I was a junior. I had no idea what the gubernatorial race was, but I had a chance to learn a lot about that and being able to participate in that. So that was fun. So I would say those were probably my most memorable moments.
Well, everyone remembers their own election night, but what stands out to you about yours?
Oh, the fast-paced atmosphere and experience. Everything was fast-paced because we were constantly getting the numbers in, and we had to be on target. It wasn't scripted, so we literally was listening for the national news, listening for the local news, and just being able to be on point at any given point in time, from the beginning of that show to the end of the show. It just being fast-paced.
Well, every year, GHS-TV was able to produce the most accurate gubernatorial exit poll predictions. You must have been pretty proud of this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we were high schoolers. I mean, we were able to, the accuracy that we were able to have, I mean, it amazes me. And a lot of people in Germantown actually watched our show more so than CBS or any other news channels because they knew that we were going to be accurate.
How do you think that GHS-TV has been able to consistently produce these accurate results?
The professionalism at GHS-TV is just second to none. You guys can be put up against CNN, can be put up against ABC or any news channel just because of your work ethic and the fact that I was able to learn the type of work ethic that I have at such an early age. That's all credited to my experience at GHS-TV.
Now, from all of your experiences at GHS-TV, what stands out to you the most?
What stands out the most would be what I was able to learn. And although I didn't, have a career in television, I was able to learn to be responsible, to think on my feet, to be a leader, to do things without being asked to have to do it, having to follow up, to work in a business environment, because that's literally what we did. We ran a business, and so I was able to do all of that, and I would say that was what I was able to take away.
The spark of creation, flickering within me. The spark of creation is blazing in my blood. A bit of the fire that lit up the stars and breathed life into the mud. First inspiration of the spark of creation.
Well, the last few years, you have returned to GHS-TV for another annual show. Tell us a little more about that.
Oh, I get a chance to host the auction. So I did it 2 years in a row, this past year and then the year before last. And it's so great, again, just going into the room and going into the studios, and just it's a nostalgic experience because you can hear Mr. Mazur yelling at everyone, but then everyone's still so excited and love it. And I miss that. I miss Mr. Mazur yelling at me and telling me what to do and telling me what I'm doing wrong. So it's always good. We raise so much money. The community comes together, and it just seems like it gets better and better every year. And I hope I get a chance to do it again. Hopefully you all will ask me back.
Well, Mrs. Watson, it was a pleasure speaking with you, and we hope to see you at Auction 2018.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
The 2000 presidential election kept everyone in suspense. The person charged with delivering those results was 2001 graduate Rob Edwards. He joins us now from St. Louis. Good evening, Mr. Edwards.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, the 2000 elections was a huge year for you. In addition to covering the election, you also interviewed eventual Vice President Dick Cheney. How did this interview come about?
Right, so probably just a couple of weeks before the election, we got word that Dick Cheney was going to make a stop in Germantown and give a speech at the high school to some of the students. So we only had about 2 days to prepare, and I found out late at night, probably 6 or 7 o'clock at night, 2 days before he was going to arrive. So I spent pretty much around the clock the next 2 days preparing and getting questions ready to ask the vice presidential candidate. he got a chance. He came in right after his speech and sat down outside of the gym for about a 10-minute interview, and we discussed a wide range of topics, and it was really great.
Well, talk about your election night experience overall. GHS-TV went off air without calling a winner.
Yeah, so it was a crazy year. I mean, it was 2000, and most of the people probably watching this can remember that it was one of the more controversial elections in our country's history. What was funny is in preparing for that night, I had talked a lot with people and just kind of researching that there was a possibility that Florida would be the deciding factor. And not only that, but we could have a split between the electoral vote and the popular vote. And that's actually what ended up happening. And as you know, that race eventually went on to the Supreme Court before George Bush was ushered into office. But it was a great night. It was an awesome experience as a high school student to be able to be involved in something like that and learn about a presidential election and a presidential race. And that entire experience was incredible.
Well, fast forward 17 years, and you are now an Emmy Award-winning producer. How did GHS-TV set you up for such success?
I say that everything I've learned about time management and everything that I've learned about being organized came from my time at Germantown Community Television. I learned more about how to prepare and how to check everything over and over again to make sure that every detail was perfect. And I still bring that into my professional life every day. People often call me obsessive or overboard, but I like to think of it as meticulous and careful. And so I think that is what I was mostly taught throughout my time at GHS-TV, was how to be precise and careful. And I'll never forget those lessons that I learned.
Now, everything kind of came full circle for you last year when you came back as an analyst for Election Night 2016. Why did you come back to be part of such a big night?
I just remember how influential that time was for me to learn about politics, to learn about television, to learn about a live broadcast. It's not often that as a high school student, you get to take part in a 3-hour live broadcast talking about something as important as the election. So I knew that if I had the time to come back to help the students and to give back some of my time and kind of let them know the experiences that I had in high school, it would be really valuable. And it also gave me an opportunity to come back to the high school to see what the students were doing and to really be a part of something special.
Now, after a couple years of hiatus from television, you just got a new job. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so I was just recently hired at KSDK-TV in St. Louis. It's the NBC affiliate here, and I will be the executive producer during the day. So I'll oversee our 4, 5, and 6 o'clock newscasts. And it's a chance for me to get back into TV. I had taken a break for a couple of years, but really I love being in a newsroom and couldn't imagine being without it. So I'll be going back here in a couple of weeks to start my new job there.
Alumni know that the production provides scholarships to students in the program. And last year you helped fund a scholarship for GHS-TV students pursuing a career in journalism. Can you tell me a little about this?
Yeah, it's become difficult over the past couple of years to see some of our institutions of journalism be attacked and to see our institutions of journalism be, it's been tough out there for people. And so I wanted to find a way to make sure that students and to make sure that people in high school didn't look at journalism as a negative and had an opportunity to pursue their dreams throughout college and maybe have some added financial support. And really, to me, it's less about the financial support and more about the idea of just letting students know that journalism is a great profession. It's not something that needs to be vilified. Not everything is fake news. And we need to have young people out there learning how to be journalists and to be trained at a young age. So I just wanted to be a small part of that and make sure that students had an opportunity to get a proper journalism training and to start their careers off on the right foot.
Oh my God, and all peace and beauty, I know that's all my heart is yours. here forever, Father, forever. I cannot leave, but if I don't know what else to do, how can I live? I cannot live. I will not live in a world without
Well, Mr. Edwards, it was great taking a walk down memory lane with you. We hope to see you for Election Night 2018.
Thank you.
Now, let's send things back to Scarlett Simpson.
Thank you, Avery. Throughout this special 35th anniversary show, we've highlighted and celebrated GHS-TV's past. Now, it's time to look towards the future. Current students, just like the generations before them, have devoted 2, sometimes 3 years to the TV studio, learning the skills needed to begin a career in journalism or the entertainment industry. Let's hear how juniors and seniors are embracing their time spent here at GHS-TV.
Instead of doing the PSAs right after the interview, I would toss it right from there to
What I love here at GHS-TV is the adrenaline rush that I get.
We're running a 24-hour broadcast television station like no other school has done.
Switch audio to sound.
Here, I get the experience and the knowledge of how to direct a show, a live show, every month, and I also get to understand what it takes to live in the real world.
It's a place where I put my 100% into.
We're all just constantly lifting each other up and supporting each other, and I think the biggest thing is that we teach each other.
We all have dedication, we all have a passion to do what this class is preparing us to do in real life.
I'm Rodney McKinner, here with another edition of Tech Talk. It's preparing me not to just do the work to get it done, but to make sure that I'm having fun when I'm doing it.
I'm your host, Scarlett Simpson. Those lessons have also affected me in the ways that I would never even imagine.
It has shown me to be different and to, not settle for mediocrity. When you're producing a show, you want your show to be the best one it can be. You want it to be, a show to remember, a show that you want to look back on and say, I did that.
Yes, I did do this. Did I believe that I could do this? No, but because of all the support that I gained, I know that I can actually get this done.
If I could say anything to the upcoming students or anybody thinking about joining a production workshop class or GHS-TV, I would say keep the tradition alive. All of the students before us and us ourselves have won many awards due to our work ethic and our drive throughout this class. And that's one thing I would love for the students coming up to understand that it takes a lot to be in this class. We don't just show up and it happens. We have to show up and work.
I don't know where I'd be or what I'd be doing if I didn't have GHS-TV there with me, if I didn't have my supervisors or my coworkers. If I didn't have GHS-TV, I wouldn't be who I am today. From all of us here at GHS-TV, have a great day. We'd like to thank all of our alumni who Skyped in to talk with us this evening. GHS-TV is continuing to advance and uphold its legendary tradition of excellence through the work of our alumni, faculty, and most of all, the students.
Without the intricate investments from alumni and supporters, GHS-TV could not produce artists who creatively mold how we perceive the world today. Here's to another 35 years and even higher levels of success for the future.
From all of us here at GHS-TV, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.